We hesitated over this one. Not because it was loud or shocking or unfamiliar. It was the kind of story that arrives already arranged, like paperwork laid out before anyone sits down. Ava Reynolds came to us through a pause in her voice, not through anger. What stayed wasn't what was taken from her, but the moment she realized someone was about to try, this is how she remembers it. The message came in just after dinner, when my laptop was still open and the kitchen light felt too bright for the hour. Susan wrote, "We need to talk. Privately. There are things you should see before this gets complicated." Jason followed with an attachment. 2. Actually. A string of emails. A transaction summary. Printed, scanned, then photographed again like someone wanted them to look handled. I opened the files slowly. The headers were wrong. The timestamps didn't line up. The transaction format didn't match the custodian my dad had used for years. I didn't respond right away. A minute later, Susan sent another text. "If this comes out the wrong way, it could hurt you. Your work. Your reputation." I stared at the screen and felt something settle instead of rise. Not panic, not fear, recognition. I typed, "If this needs to be discussed, I'll come." She replied almost instantly. "Good. Family meeting. Pasadena. Tomorrow." I closed the laptop and sat there longer than I needed to. My dad used to say preparation was quieter than people expect. This felt like that. The next day, the restaurant was exactly as promised. French place near Old Town, private room upstairs, no menus on the table, just a neat stack of paper and a pen lined up with the edge. Susan smiled too quickly. Jason didn't. "Thank you for coming," Susan said. "We just want fairness." I nodded and took the seat they'd left for me. The room felt staged, but I let them talk. For a while, we noticed how calmly she listened, how little she interrupted. Susan slid the papers closer. "These raise concerns." I looked at them again. "Is this everything?" Jason leaned back. "You should take this seriously." I did. Just not the way they expected. Before anyone said another word, I set my phone face down on the table. I had come to listen, and to remember. We'll stay close for what follows. If you're still here, you'll hear it the way she did. The drive home felt longer than it was. I didn't turn on music, just the low hum of the road and my phone buzzing once, then stopping. My dad's voice came back the way it always does, not as a lecture, just a line, dropped in, like a reminder taped to the fridge. "Read everything twice," he used to say, leaning over the counter while I washed dishes, then assume someone else didn't. He said it the first time I opened a checking account. He said it again when I signed my first lease. And later, when I started working remote and asked him if I should trust a contract that felt friendly. Friendly isn't a clause. He told me, paper is honest. People aren't always. After my parents divorced, he stopped assuming things would work themselves out. After that, he got quieter about money. Not secretive, just precise. I remember asking once, half joking, "Am I in trouble?" He smiled and shook his head. "No, I'm making sure you won't be." He didn't say my mom's name. He didn't have to. The night before the meeting, I pulled out the old folder he'd given me years ago. Account notes, contacts. One card with a name written neatly across it. Lauren Pierce. I hadn't called her yet. Not because I didn't trust her. Because I wanted to see how much they'd say when they thought I was alone. I set the folder back where it belonged and turned off the light. Whatever they were planning. He'd already planned for it. The hostess led me upstairs without saying much. She glanced at the reservation, then at me, like she was checking I matched the name. Before she opened the door, I leaned in a little. "I'm expecting someone shortly. She'll arrive late. Please let her come straight in." She nodded once. Of course. Inside. The room was already set. No menus, no water poured. Just a long table, papers stacked neatly in the center, a pen placed exactly where my chair would be. Susan stood when I walked in, Her smile came fast and stayed fixed. Ava, you made it. Jason stayed seated, jacket still on. One arm draped over the chair back like he was settling in for something longer than lunch. Harper and Ethan sat together on the far side. Harper gave a small nod. Ethan kept his eyes on the table. Sit, Susan said, gesturing to the open chair. We wanted this to feel calm. I pulled the chair out and took my time sitting down. Jason tapped at the stack of papers. We've already gone through the details. Susan slid them closer. This isn't an attack. We just want to clear the air. I glanced at the top page. My name was printed cleanly at the top. Too clean. A man in a suit on the other side of the table closed his laptop and folded his hands. I'm here to help everyone stay reasonable. I nodded once and folded my hands in my lap. Okay, I said. Susan started the way she always does, with her hands folded and her voice soft. We're not here to take anything from you, she said. We're here to make sure everyone is protected. Jason shifted in his chair. This doesn't need to turn into a whole thing. The man with the laptop nodded along. Family settlements keep situations like this private. Susan leaned forward. Your father didn't think through the full picture. College is expensive. Life is expensive. We're just asking you to share. She slid the papers closer. I didn't touch them. Harper glanced at the stack, then at me. Her mouth tightened, just for a second. Jason cleared his throat. If these questions end up in the wrong hands, they could slow everything down. Investigations have a way of doing that. Susan picked up one of the printed emails and held it between two fingers. We don't want misunderstandings. I let the silence sit. Ethan's foot bounced under the table. He stopped it with his heel, then started again. What exactly are you proposing? I asked. The man with the laptop spoke without looking at me. A redistribution, a shared trust. 55% placed where it benefits the whole family. Susan nodded quickly. You'd still have plenty. This is just about fairness. I looked down at the email she'd circled in blue pen. The date was wrong. The server line didn't exist. Harper noticed me looking and followed my eyes. Her brow furrowed. Jason watched her. Then, me. You should think about how this could look. I met his gaze and kept my voice even. Is this everything? Susan hesitated, then smiled again. Of course, and you're confident it's accurate. She nodded. Jason did too. I leaned back and folded my hands. Okay, I said. I slid the top page away from the stack, just enough to see the margin notes. This email, I said, tapping the corner, didn't come from my dad's server. Susan blinked once. What do you mean? The header format is wrong. He used a different provider. Always did. Jason let out a short breath through his nose. You're missing the point. I kept going. The timestamp doesn't line up either. It's logged in a time zone he never worked from. The man with the laptop shifted in his chair. Technical details aren't. They matter. I said. My voice surprised me. Still calm, just firmer, especially when you're trying to make something look real. Susan's smile thinned. Ava, you're overthinking this. I picked up the transaction summary next. This format doesn't exist. Not with that custodian. They don't issue statements like this. Harper leaned forward without meaning to. Her eyes moved across the page, then back to her mom. She didn't say anything. She didn't have to. Jason straightened. You're accusing us of something. I'm explaining why this wouldn't hold up. I said. Not in court. Not anywhere. Susan's hands tightened together. So you're just going to ignore it? I set the papers back in the center. These don't corner me. The room went quiet. Even the air felt different. But they do show that someone tried, I added, letting the words land, to put me in a position I didn't earn. I reached into my bag and placed my phone face down on the table. I wanted to hear all of it, I said, and now I have... No one spoke, so I kept my hands folded and waited. Jason broke the silence first. You think you've proven something. I reached back into my bag and pulled out a thin folder. Not dramatic. Just paper. These are the notices I didn't show you yet, I said, sliding one page forward. Password reset attempts. Not logins. Susan frowned. That doesn't mean anything. It does when they're followed by security question prompts. I said, questions only someone who knows me could answer. Jason's jaw tightened. Lots of people know those things. Not the timing. I said, not together. I turned the page. This came 2 days later. Temporary access codes mailed out. Physical mail. Susan's head snapped up. You're accusing me of stealing mail now I'm pointing out a pattern. I said, reset request, recovery questions, codes sent. Then another attempt. Jason shifted, his chair scraping softly against the floor. You can't prove who was behind a computer. I don't need to. I said, the bank already logged the attempts. They flagged the behavior. Harper's eyes flicked to Jason's hands. He'd stopped moving them. Ethan sat frozen, shoulders drawn in. Susan reached for the folder and stopped herself. This is getting out of hand. It already did, I said. That's why I didn't interrupt earlier. Jason leaned forward. So what is this? Ava, a threat. I shook my head. It's a record. I tapped my phone with one finger. Still face down. This meeting, the documents, the timing, it's all connected. The man with the laptop cleared his throat. We should slow this down. I nodded once. We are. Susan swallowed. You planned this. I prepared. I said. There's a difference. The room felt smaller then, not louder, just tighter. And for the first time, no one tried to fill the space. I picked up my phone and typed a single word. Now. The knock came almost immediately. Not loud, just precise. The door opened and the hostess stepped aside. A woman in a dark blazer walked in, calm like she already knew the layout of the room. Ava, Lauren said, meeting my eyes first. Then she looked at the table, the papers, the pen, the faces. Susan straightened. This is a private meeting. Lauren nodded once. I was invited. She set a slim folder down beside mine. Probate is closed. The estate is settled. Ava is the sole legal controller of every account and asset. Jason leaned back. Too fast. This is unnecessary. Lauren didn't look at him. Attempted account recovery, fabricated records, and coordinated pressure fall under financial coercion. The man with the laptop shifted. We're just talking. Lauren glanced at him then. Talking doesn't involve forged documents. Susan's voice dropped. We can still resolve this quietly. Lauren's tone stayed even. That option passed when evidence was created. No one reached for the papers anymore. I stayed seated, hands folded, watching the room adjust around the fact that it was no longer theirs to direct. The door closed behind Lauren, and nothing moved. The first week after the restaurant, my phone stayed quiet. Too quiet. Then the emails started, requests, clarifications, someone asking if I'd reconsider a private resolution. Lauren handled most of it. She'd call in the evenings, voice steady, asking if I was holding up. I told her yes. Some days that was true. Some days it was just easier to say. There were interviews after that. Long tables, cold rooms, people reading from notes while I watched their pens move. Dates blurred. Weeks stacked into months. Susan tried a softer approach once. A voicemail that started with my name the way she used to say it when I was a kid. She didn't finish the thought. Jason left nothing. Just silence and one message asking about timing. Harper sent a short text. I didn't know. I'm sorry. No follow-up. Ethan didn't reach out at all. Depositions came and went. Delays. More paperwork. Lauren warned me it would drag. She was right. Some nights I sat at my kitchen table with a mug that had gone cold, staring at nothing in particular. The hard part wasn't the process. It was learning how to wait without backing down. By the time the court date arrived, waiting felt familiar. I walked in steadier than I expected. The ruling came on a Tuesday morning. No raised voices, no speeches, just words read into a room that already felt finished. Lauren squeezed my arm once as we stood. It's done. Outside, Jason didn't look at me. Susan did, for half a second, like she was checking whether there was anything left to ask for. There wasn't. Harper walked past without stopping. Ethan followed her. That was it. Weeks later, the house in Pasadena felt different, not bigger, just settled. I met Lauren at the small table by the window and we went through the last of it. Accounts stabilized, transfers confirmed, a quiet donation made to an identity theft support group. Done online? No announcement? Your dad would have approved, Lauren said, closing her folder. I nodded. He liked things finished. That night, I found his old notebook in a drawer I hadn't opened in years. Mostly lists. A few reminders. One line, written smaller than the rest. Preparation is love without noise. I sat with that longer than I expected. Not as a lesson, just as something he left me that still worked. My phone buzzed once. A message from Harper. No apology this time. Just, I hope you're okay. I typed back. I am, and I was. Not because I won, because I didn't disappear trying to keep the peace. Ava Reynolds still lives here, still works remote, still reads things twice. If this story stayed with you, you know why. We noticed how she didn't walk away lighter or louder, just steadier. And sometimes, that's the part worth sitting with.